Hi, welcome to the Movie Review Mom YouTube channel. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews. And my goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so that you can make the best decision as to whether or not you want to spend time or money or both sometimes watching a particular film. So the movie I'm reviewing today is called The Holdovers. This movie, which is both comedy and tragedy, is now playing in theaters. The movie is rated R and is 2 hours and 13 minutes long. My movie review mom grade is an A. I thought it was really well done. And it's an unusual type of Christmas story. Let me give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I really liked, things I didn't like, tips for parents, themes worth talking about, funny lines, interesting lines, and recommendations for other films that are sort of like this that you might also really enjoy. All right, let's dive in. So, in a nutshell, the story is about a cranky history teacher at a remote prep school who is forced to remain on campus over the Christmas holidays with a troubled student who has no place to go. The movie is directed by two-time Oscar winner Alexander Payne and written by David Hemington. So here's the list of things I really liked. First of all, this movie had me at Paul Giamatti. I've been such a fan of his for so many years. He is fantastic in this, of course. He's fantastic in everything. He creates a character that is unlikable and lovable at the same time. The makeup team makes one of his eyes look a little off, like a glass eye or something, to add yet one more quirk to his character. I'm hoping that he gets recognized by the Academy for his outstanding performance once the Oscar ceremony season comes rolling through, which is soon. Divine Joy Randolph has already been nominated and won awards for her exceptional performance in this movie. So kudos to her. Both she and Paul Giamatti graduated from the Yale School of Drama. That's awesome. A wonderful revelation of the movie was the on screen debut of a talented new actor named Dominic Sessa. He did an excellent job, and I'm really excited to see what he does next. I loved watching the gradual transformational growth of several of the characters. There are no sets or sound stages. All of the scenes were shot at real locations, which I really liked about this movie. It feels real. The story takes place in the 1970s, and the film even looks like it was made in the 1970s with some of the filter effects, the color palette, and the whole deal. So well done, team. The dialogue is clever and witty and even inspiring at times. There's some visual and spoken humor. This is the perfect movie to watch during the holidays as it reminds us to be aware of those who are alone and without their family. Maybe it will inspire us to reach out and extend an invitation to them to join us. I love the illustration of following the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. The musical score by Mark Orton fits the style and era of the film perfectly. The film takes its time to deliver the story we want that touches our hearts and breaks it at the same time in many ways. Now, I always write a list of things that I didn't like. And actually, as I'm looking at my notes, I wrote nothing. I really enjoyed everything about this movie. Let me give you some tips for parents. Despite my praise, I think young kids are going to be very bored. It's an adult talking movie. There is some profanity, including F-bombs. There are some crude comments. Prescription drugs are used and talked about. There's also alcohol, cigarettes, and weed portrayed and consumed. After you watch this movie, here's a list of themes that are definitely worth talking about if you watch this with family and friends. Family, educators, sacrifice, belonging, acceptance, goals, parenting, loneliness, boarding school life, and life's challenges and journeys, and what we do with those things. Now, I always write down funny lines and interesting lines while I'm watching movies, simply so I can share them with you so you can get a taste for the script writing and dialogue quality and that kind of stuff. So here's one of the funny lines that I wrote down. And by the way, you can see all of these on my written review at moviereviewmom.com. So this is the line spoken by Paul Giamatti. One of the students that he teaches is, saying something ridiculous. And he says to the student sarcastically, "Your logic is flawless." Now, I'm a university professor, and so I thought that line was funny because I have students that say ridiculous things all the time, but I never say anything snarky like that, just in case you're wondering. One thing I do tell my students is, hey, you're in college now, so don't talk about, I feel like this is true, or I feel like the author meant to say, blah, 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 if whatever, I'm making examples. What I tell them is, you're in college, level up to critical thinking and use evidence. So I believe this is true because, or this is true as evidenced by blah, blah, blah. Because I think especially the younger generation, millennials and Gen Z, for example, it's all about, well, I feel like this and I feel like that. And, that's fine if you're talking about your feelings, but if you are talking about an opinion, it should be based on evidence. Anyway, okay, enough said about that. So let me share some interesting lines. Actually, this is kind of a funny line as well, but Paul Giamatti says, "Do not cross the Rubicon." Now, he's a real letter of the man kind of guy, and he has some character growth that lets him see that gray line, that line is maybe not always black and white, but maybe a little gray. And then he also says, world is decay, life is deception. Now, he is very sarcastic and very cynical about the world, and yet he does some really remarkable things. Another thing that he says is, your history does not dictate your destination. And I love that. And that's true for every one of these characters, that whatever they did in the past is over. Learn from it and move on. Every day you have an opportunity to be a new person and a better person. And that message comes through very loud and clear. There are so many really touching conversations between Paul Giamatti's character, he's the professor, and Angus Tully, who's played by this new young actor, Dominic Sessa. And so Paul Giamatti's trying to encourage the young student. He says, keep your head up, you can do this. And then the student looks at him and says, I was going to tell you to do the same thing, because they're both struggling in different ways. And they become this support system for each other in a way. Now, I don't know if that's a spoiler, but anyway, one last line by Paul Giamatti is when he says, I find the world a bitter and complicated place, and it seems to feel the same way about me. Again, as evidence of his cynicism towards life. And again, pay attention because he makes some very remarkable choices. All right, while I was watching this movie, I instantly thought of some other films that I wanted to share with you. One is an older movie called School Ties. Actually, as I look about on my list of these three movies, they're all fairly old. Well, I don't know, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Another one, which is a classic, is called Dead Poets Society. Such a good movie. Again, both inspirational and heartbreaking. And then another fantastic movie with Danny DeVito and a bunch of young famous actors is called Renaissance Man. And there is such a brilliant scene that has this dialogue that my husband has memorized and repeated to me many, many times. It's such a great scene. One of the best movie scenes I can even think of that I've ever seen. So definitely check that one out. And they all involve professors and students and challenges and all of that kind of stuff. Growth. I mean, going to school is all about growth, right? You're not expected to get perfect grades and everything. And I even tell my students that this is the place to make mistakes so that when you go out into the working world and want to be a professional, that you've made the mistakes and learned in school, in classes, what to do and all of that kind of thing. All right, that's it. When you get a minute, run over to my Instagram page and follow me at Movie Review Mom, or also either and or at Trina Boice, which is my name. And you can learn about my books, especially when they go for free on Amazon, and my online courses. And I always have a funny laugh for the day because we all need that in this crazy world. And of course, my movie reviews. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.